Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, I'm having a little bit of platform issues here. I don't know what I did. Hopefully you hear the music now. Yeah, okay, we're good there. We're good there. I just can't hear it because I have voice meters turned on. Okay, so there's the news we got. Initial jobless claims, 208 versus an expected 211. U.S. unit labor costs preliminary 4.7 versus an expected 4%. That is much higher than expected, although I think with the numbers that we got earlier in the week, that shouldn't be too surprising. Productivity preliminary, spot 3 versus spot 5. That's not good. Okay, well, I don't see any of those numbers being like the end of the world here, and the market is kind of already stabilizing, but I do think it could give us a decent amount of movement here. Okay, so meanwhile, oh, you won't be able to tell, but I'm having issues because all of my reconstructed tapes are gone. What the heck? This is like the most bizarre thing to ever happen to me with Jigsaw. They're all gone. What the heck? But they're not on the other screens. So weird. Let's come and check the charts first before I mess with that. Okay, so after a pretty wild session yesterday, it looks like the treasuries are continuing to levitate up a little bit here. The S&P 500, they took a big jump and then came all the way back. Oh man, the equity traders, reading like the Reddit and listening to all of the equity traders trying to trade it was hilarious to me because we like played it perfect. All these other guys are like, oh, what happened? It's all manipulated. Okay, anyways, oil down yesterday. A little bounce this morning. Gold and silver. Well, they kind of got hammered a little bit yesterday, but I mean, well, I shouldn't say hammered. Like, they took off and then they came back. They came back pretty hard. Especially silver there. Wow. Kappa's still struggling. The Japanese yen, apparently some intervention overnight again. Look at that big jump. I don't know. That one doesn't make sense to me. Like, there wasn't like in dire straits or anything, but it looks like the intervention is still out there and we need to keep in mind. So are the treasuries up because of the intervention? I don't know. But let us come. Okay, so for flows, I think that we're going to have equities. No, we don't need that. It's not a header. It's like that. Equities revenge trading. I think we might see some of that. Okay, we still have the what should we call this? Bond buybacks slash taper slash bill issuance favors treasury buying, and we got initial jobless claims, and later today we got factory orders and core durable goods, 4-week bill auction, Do we have any Fed speakers? No, Biden is supposed to speak, though. It is a holiday in Japan. Okay. Japan holiday. All right. I think... Oh, and... JPY intervention. Okay. So, I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. I think that that probably all means that we get quite a bit of action and we could see back and forth. Maybe overall up, but I think that we might get, you know, some action on both sides here. Okay, you know what? Should I like try restarting Jigsaw first before I do this? I'm gonna try restarting Jigsaw first before I mess with this. Okay, so it's taking it a little bit longer to shut down than I would have thought. How do you think the floor traders of the 90s would fare with the way trading is today? I just finished watching Floored, and a few of the traders on that documentary despise trading electronically. Do you think the concepts and the way they trade on the floor translates to trading by it? No, I don't. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, a large part, to be frank with you, a large part of why we moved to electronic in the way that we did was because it was beneficial to the institutions at the cost of the floor traders. The floor traders did pretty okay, and that was money off the back of the big institutions. And so when we moved over to the electronic market, it was a lot easier for those institutions to hide what they were doing, essentially. It was absolutely a factor. And a large portion of the way that they traded on the floor had to do with, you know, being able to get a good spot so that you were likely to get filled and you could make money just providing liquidity. You try doing that as a retail trader today, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I think if you want to learn that sort of stuff, you can look up Gary Norton. He's probably the only person really kind of teaching that stuff. And he wasn't necessarily a floor trader, though. But it's super, super hard. And I think that most day traders kind of have to go a little bit higher time frame now, because you can't compete with the robots. And so, yes, probably a lot of those floor traders would not make the transition. I mean, most of them didn't. Most of them didn't, right? All right, well... a little frustrated here that I'm... have to recreate all this. Change this one to size filter 1500. I don't even remember what I have my size filters set for these other ones. I guess I'll set ZB to be 500. Seeing some buying there in the 5-year for sure. So, based on, you know, what we got yesterday, because a big part of it yesterday was, you know, less, well, not less, but that the bill issuance will stay the same. So that's probably going to affect us the most over on the 5-year side of the curve, right? So I want to pay attention there a little bit, that, you know, I'm seeing a bit of that buying coming in on that side. Probably going to be a little bit hands off today because I just feel so tired. Floor traders back then didn't use charts at all, no computers. They watched the behavior of others and traded their gut in economic releases. Technical analysis was basically old schoolers at the end of the day. Charts on indexes, and then it became a marketing phenomenon for retail traders when retail brokerage houses became big, like them old 1900 mother effers drawing lines on paper charts. Well, yeah, this is a thing that's so weird. Once, you know, and what I was trying to, the point that I was trying to get across in my momentum trading video is that all of the retail traders were taught that you can make money just from watching the charts. And that's true to an extent, but the way that those guys were doing that was looking at daily charts. And what we do is we come in and we turn on a 1-minute chart, and we're told that it's all the same on all time frames, and no, it's not. An intraday is completely different. And I really, at least in the future space, like, looking at one instrument and just trading that one instrument all the time in the future space, I really don't see how you're going to be successful completely relying on the chart. You're going to have the depth of market up, and you're going to have to watch the news. Now, stocks is maybe a little bit different. Stocks is maybe a little bit different because you get to choose which stocks you're going to go in that day, and you're picking a different one. And so from that perspective, technical analysis, if we're going to call it that, is useful for identifying which instrument you want to trade, right? But in the future space, it's just not. And Octavius is right. They front run Goldman. They would basically see that the large institutions had orders coming in, and then would try and guess what those orders were and would front run those orders. That's exactly what they did. And then you had liquidity. And the institutional traders would hate it because it would always, you know, it was difficult for them to make as much money as they wanted because the scalpers basically always took a portion of it. So they moved it online. And if we online had the ability to see who we were trading against, it would be a lot more like the pits, and it would be different. It would be very different. That's why it's not like that. I tell you, so I don't know why I've been thinking about this lately, but one of the ideas that keeps going through my head is this idea that there should be training wheels. There should be this rule that if you are a retail trader, so you're not paying the professional fee, and your account size is under a certain amount, that your orders go to the front of the queue. The HFTs would hate it, but I think it would be a good rule because it's not, you know, the market it's competitive, but it's cooperatively competitive. It's not necessarily a good thing to completely decimate your competition. we need a variety of people, a variety of different roles in order to make the market work. And so we want to create a kind of space where everybody is making money. And it seems to me like that for the most part, the retail traders don't. That like the one thing that would be, be a really good way for retail traders to trade and would be like really consistent and good way to get started would be scalping, and they've been taken over by the robots. So how do you get around that? Give them training wheels. You're a retail trader. Another thing would be they'd have to be manual entries. You go to the front of the queue. I don't know. I don't think that they would ever do it, but it's just like a really interesting idea to me that I think about a lot. Day trading is a mathematically losing game. How good or bad you are at it, it really just determines how long it takes you to go bust. I don't think that it would be proper to say that day trading is inherently a losing game. It's kind of more like, given the situation and the edges that are available to us, it's usually a losing game. If you know enough about what's going on, then it's not a losing game, but you have to be informed. That's really hard. Yesterday, for the Federal Reserve meeting, I think we did a really good job. I'm still a little psyched about it. I feel so tired this morning. The kids are just pissing me off. I don't feel like that my wife really helps the situation because she lets him sleep in and then he doesn't want to go to bed at night. It makes me so mad. And they keeping me up and I'm so tired. But the thing that's got me, giving me energy today and keeping me jazzed is how well we pulled off that trade on the FOMC yesterday. I had a good enough idea of what was going on that it was a gamble trade. I had an order in before the release, but I knew enough about what the situation was to guess how the market was going to react, and I called it to a T. And then we were able to read the order flow and get out practically at the top before it retraced a ton. Why? Because we were informed. We knew the context, we knew what was going on, and we were able to predict the orders. I can't do that every day. Okay, but when you are informed, it's not a losing game. When you are informed, you can make money. Sufficiently informed, let's say. How do you keep your emotions in control? I don't think that you can. The best thing that you can do is make sure that your emotions do not negatively impact your trading. You're going to have to learn, if you're in that kind of mode, okay, like the stress of being in a trade. As you're in it more and more and more, you're going to learn how to deal with it. It's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. You just learn to deal with it and make it so that it impacts your decision making less. And that's a tough thing because when you lose, it has chemical impacts, right? When you win or lose, chemicals are released in your brain that can impact the effectiveness of your future decision making. On that one, there's nothing you can do about it. You can just know when it's affecting you to be able to say, okay, what I'm seeing here right now is not strong enough of an edge for me to take a trade, considering that my decision making is probably impacted. So I'm just not going to trade. That's the best you can do. Don't say predict. Okay, I have some food here. I can go 10 minutes on that one. I feel pressure to make money because of kids and family, so focusing is not easy, but this is the only profession I like. Run away. Run, Tasuf. Seriously. Day trading is extremely difficult, and something that will make it even harder is knowing that the next trade is going to determine whether you can keep your home or not, or whether you eat or not. It's way too much stress. Trading is for people that have a strong ability to take on risk. And that generally means people that are already extremely financially secure. It really is. And the idea of coming in and making day trading your career is not a very wise decision. I'm not saying that people can't have success with it. There's lots of people out there, preaching it like, because they're taking degenerate risks. But like, you gotta realize that these guys are they're risking their whole portfolio every day. Right. And it's not uncommon for me to see them blow their account in one day or lose half of their account in one day. Yeah. I think that what I would do is I would go out and I would find a different career. It's the only thing that you enjoy. You got to get over that. You've got to learn to enjoy what's in front of you. Like, you can control these things. You can control to some extent what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. Part of it is just mindset. Part of it is like going through the habits, and just kind of like ingraining things so that when you do that thing, you get the little sparkle of serotonin that makes you want to keep doing it. This is why I spend so much time, my keyboard and learning to type and optimizing my my text editor and that sort of a thing, right? That way you can do what you're good at, do what will make money, and enjoy it, and then you will have the money and the ability to take on risk to do the thing that you actually want to do, which is trade. But try to make it your income. Okay, at the moment my monthly income is secure till next year. That's great. Use that time to learn to code or something. I don't know. Everybody says that the coding space is over saturated. I don't know if that's actually true, but find where the easy money is in that economy. Really. I can imagine people going full leverage. Well, so I think that most retail traders try to limit themselves to 1% per trade. The problem is that you take multiple trades a day, and it very quickly turns into 10-20% of your account. It's just the way that it goes. When you're leveraged enough that an average move ends up being 1%, then when you get a big drawdown, the drawdown ends up being 50% or more. It does. It's probably too tight. There was a prop firm. It was a Forex prop firm, and they basically admitted that 90% of their funded traders did not keep the account past 3 months. And of the people that had their accounts for years, they said that those traders were only risking 1% per day. They kept their daily loss to 1%. I don't know if I could do that on futures, but maybe on Forex that might make sense. But most of the combines, that would be underneath of the risk that they tell you to take. So This is coming down. The leverage on Forex is the quickest way to Wendy's. Well, you can get there much faster with futures depending on how you're doing it, right? Like, just think about that for a second. It's like 1%. So that means that if we're here trading the treasuries and we have a $1,000 account, then you can risk $10 a trade, right? Too leveraged. And the micro treasuries are like the smallest amount of risk you can take. So 2 on that one. Now, listen, when you come back to like, I think that a lot of what retail traders are taught is kind of like leads you down the wrong path. And there is, I think one of the biggest distinctions that I would make is something predictive or not. So momentum trading is not predictive in the least bit. It's anti-predictive. It's like the win rate is really low. And it's just that you're trading like every time that momentum is just getting started, you're going in and you're trading it. So in the like 10% of the time that momentum does go, you make tons and tons of money. And if you're swing trading it, if you're holding that position open for months, then you're able to make so much money on those winners that it cancels out the losers. Okay? But it's not predictive. And so that's a whole system where you're playing the probabilities and you have to take all of the trades. Okay? How do you apply that to day trading? I really just don't see how you do. Because what most retail traders will do is they say, oh, here's a pattern, and I think that this pattern is going to resolve up 52% of the time. Well, okay, first of all, you're only getting a 2% edge, and that's only if you're taking literally every trade. That's a lot of costs, guys. How are retail traders pulling that off? They're not. What they're doing is they're taking every teeny tiny little technical thing that they supposedly know and combining them together and then using discretion to decide when to take trades or not. And most of them are, taking on a lot of risk as they do it too. They have a really wide stop compared to this tiny little profit that they're trying to take so that they can make money from providing the liquidity essentially. Right. And so it fools them into thinking that, that the technical analysis is actually working. When the reality of it is that most of it is just random noise. It's not predictive. Whereas me, I want something that's predictive. I want to know information that is going to effectively predict the orders that are going to come into my market that day. Yesterday, we had something that was predictive. Today, I have no clue why they're selling this. That is a decently large amount of volume that traded there between 29 and 29.5 with 9,000 on the offer and 5,000 on the bid. They ticked it down. That's got me a little bit like, oh, what's this? Did I miss like a news headline or something? Because, it's going. I'm not really seeing the Japanese yen follow it either. Oil is moving down and the rest of the treasury complex like gold and silver, they're moving with it. But I am not seeing anything else like the Japanese yen moving. I would say when you're getting 9,000s, that is some decent flow, but I'm not seeing a huge shift in cumulative delta, at least not in the 10-year. So I think that all I can do is just kind of monitor it. What are your thoughts on Mark Douglas's Laws of Probability? So I haven't read that book. I've read Mark Douglas's other book, and my response to that is that the people that he was learning from were swing trading. The people that he was learning from were swing trading. Seriously. It's a really important point. No, I don't know. I don't think that you actually can too quick. So, this again, the average retail trader, their whole kind of like mental framework is, well, everything that we're looking at is ultimately human emotions, and human emotion, human nature doesn't change, and yada, it's bullshit. Let me tell you something. It's bullshit. Okay. Just go and take like one individual little thing, like a type of decision that people make, and like try to predict which people will come down on which side of that decision. Okay, like you can go and look at like polling on any one particular issue, and it's uncommon to see more than 60% on any kind of issue that people are polling. Like there's always going to be like that 10% of people that actually do like Congress or whatever it is, right? The reality is that the humans are extremely random and extremely adaptable. So any kind of like pattern that you might see in people's behavior, it tends to even itself out in the end, so that you can't make money from it. Like people are more fearful, so you get more volatility on downsides, but then that just means you're taking more risk on downside moves, and so it doesn't necessarily help you. I mean, it helps you, but it's not explicitly an edge for you. You go what I mean? Meanwhile, what actually ends up being consistent in markets is the rules, the structure of the market. There are certain things that are more or less likely to happen simply because of how the rules of the game work. And for some reason, we ignore those and spend all of this time on psychology and all this nonsense. When I'm telling you, people are very random. People are very random. But, there are some of these things about the structure of the market that are incredibly consistent. Like the square root law of meta order impact. That is very consistent. You can take pretty much any data set that has meta orders, aggregated together. You kind of can't see that from exchange data, but if you have data that shows you somebody executing a large meta order, it will tend to follow that square root law pretty much every time. Right? That's what I would recommend you focus on. Because again, like when you're talking about these probabilities and stuff, it's like, yeah, you're talking about things where you have to take every trade, and they're not even necessarily predictable as much as just getting you in. Those are swing trade strategies. I have not seen anything like that on a day trading basis that actually survives a 5-year backtest. Just doesn't. Seriously. So, and more broadly, because I do think like Mark Douglas's book is some of his books are great, but I think that retail traders will focus in on that stuff because they don't actually have an edge. They don't know how to find a real edge. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Too quick. Because that was, I gave you a lot of tough medicine. A lot of people wouldn't handle that, so I appreciate it. Since touching that 29, I'm starting to see a little bit of disorganized movement down in here. So it looks like maybe some people are doing some things like rebalancing and trying to sort out what's going on. But I continue to see a little bit of like volatility and slipperiness, which probably suggests to me that the market is a little unsure about why it's moving like this too. There must be a large meta order short, maybe more in the 5-year, pushing this down, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. And I cannot sort out what it is from looking at the correlations and so forth. So we just kind of sit tight. I am not the informed trader right now. I'm coming through on the Twitter stuff, and the biggest story I'm seeing this morning is that it sounds like police have kind of taken over the UCLA encampment and tore down the Palestinian flag that they had in there. So I don't know if that's too relevant to anything that's going on, but certainly an interesting developing story. Valentino, good morning. Have you been here before? That name sounds familiar, but I just don't, you know. You sound like a longtime viewer coming back and say hi. Thank you. By the way, if any of you came in from our appearance on Ninja Trader yesterday, let me know. I'd love to know, you know, how that went. I enjoyed it. I think I can do better. But I did enjoy it. We got it when we are on there again tomorrow. You guys in chat, you need to head over there and start, you know, yapping. So we can have a back and forth. They're a little bit more, you know, because they got like interviews and everything, so their chat mostly listens. But I want that back and forth discussion with chat, you know. Yes, okay. I think I remember you now, yes. Because you asked a lot of really good market depth questions. These offers are looking pretty healthy. There's a couple of interesting levels on bids below us as well. So it's actually seeing that amount of liquidity. It's actually a little odd to me to have seen the down move that we did play out the way that we did. Oh, you know what? I failed to notice that there is steepening going on. So that must be what it is. Okay, so based on our flows here that I have listed out, especially these bond buybacks, reducing the size of the taper, and the bill issuance staying roughly the same for the next quarter, those things all favor treasury buying. So I'm kind of like, well, why are they selling then? Okay, because if we were going up, then I would maybe be blaming it on that, on number 2, right? But But it also favors steepening, and the yield curve is steepening. So probably what is going on here, I think, is that we are heading down because they are taking the sell side on the ZB as a part of that spread, which means that you could possibly see the other side of that trade and see strong buying come through in the 5-year. I kind of think if that's really what it is, then probably eventually we do see some movement up. Looks like at 27.5 it's calmed down quite a bit. They could still slip lower though. They could still slip lower. I don't think that they're that the liquidity still looks a little uneasy to me. See, that is exactly what I'm talking about, man. Just burned through 27 and 26.5 like a hot knife through butter. I'm not going to say that there wasn't any liquidity in the way. I mean, there was a 5K iceberg at 27, but it just came all in all at once and it slipped down, gobbled it right up. Yeah. Like if I was short, I think that if I had taken a trade short, I would probably still be holding it on in the hopes that it extends further. Like, it could stop at any one of these points, but I'm not getting a clear enough sign of it, like, kind of like folding back now or counterflows or anything like that. I would still be holding it open in the chances it goes down. It's probably gonna have to reverse here somewhere. It does seem like it's gone further than I would have expected, but I'm just not getting those reversals kind of signals yet. And the spread is still going. Spread is still going. It's quite a strong move in the spread. So, like, the question is, if we reverse, do you see strong buying in the 5-year over here? And does the spread just keep going? Or you kind of see more mean reversion, and you know, the 30-year pops back up more than the others. Tough call. But I do think at this point, the piece of information we can gather from this that I think is important is that this does appear to be flows from spreads. So that's something that we can potentially use. Now I'm browsing through Reddit and I am seeing a lot of stuff about the UCLA encampment. Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't change the title today. It should be May 2nd, huh? I have to change that manually every day. I wish that YouTube had better things for that. But whatever. If I didn't put the dates in there, it would be so hard for me to find a day historically. But oh man, it's still going. It's still going. This is crazy. Well, how crazy is this actually? Let's come back to our volume profile. Okay. So we are just only now actually at 25.5. Kind of touching like overnight lows. And then you've kind of got, maybe we could call it this gap here to like 20 or so to retrace yesterday's move. So this is an inflection point, possible inflection point. Although I kind of feel like that we've come to it so quickly and seem to be not heeding it at all, that that kind of suggests to me that they're just blowing through it. And that you might have to look more for the 20. But that would be a really strong move to get all the way down to the 20 already. I feel a little bit of FOMO here now with this move, but I'm actually kind of thinking about it. And I'm like, you know, this is not that spectacular though. I mean, like it's a good trend. Don't get me wrong, but some of the flow is a little bit nonchalant. It's just like, okay, 2,000, 4,000 traded there, whatever. It's not like there's not the sense of chaos and panic and all of that sort of stuff with this. It's just like big meta order, executing it pretty calmly, and the market taking it in stride. There's a point at which they start to panic, but I'm not really seeing the panic. BS has good show on Ninja Trader yesterday. Thank you. There was one thing, so one thing that happened yesterday, I don't know why, but I've had a lot of thoughts going through my head that's like, I don't know why my mind is focusing on that thing, but whatever. One of the things that I was pointing out yesterday, and I still think is important, is that a lot of the PMIs are stagflationary. And in the press conference yesterday, Powell said, well, I don't think they were anywhere close to stagflation. Now, he's totally right. So when I look back on that, I'm like, oh, like the semantics that we have there is not very good. All I'm saying is that the data is price pressures are staying high and activity is slowing down. Now, we should expect some slowdown in activity. I think that the concern here is that the slowdown in activity is due in part to the price pressures, and ergo, the chances of us slipping into a real stagflationary episode, or let's not say stagflationary because that's kind of like more of an adjective. Let's say maybe we actually do fall into outright stagflation, right? That's kind of the concern, but we're not anywhere close to that yet. And I kind of felt a little bit called out, like, oh, Powell is like directly, he's calling me out. He's saying, no, that doesn't make sense, guys. Well, okay. And I said that on the Ninja Trader. But at the same time, I also said on the Ninja Trader, oh, I think you buy this. I think the trade here is that you're going to buy it. Now, I totally called that one. I called it so well. So happy with that. And we're going to be on there again tomorrow. And then I think we're going to be on again the week after next, something like that. I enjoyed it. I think I can do better. I don't feel like have quite the magic that we do when we're here on stream and I'm speaking with you guys. So that's why when we do it tomorrow, if you're watching, say something. Their chat is a little bit quieter, even though they have more people, because, they've got multiple people talking. That was actually a big revelation to me, I think. I think it was a big revelation to me because one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot over the last year about, what are some things that we can do to kind of help the YouTube channel and progress, because we've had a lot of success, and the more the success that you have, the harder it is to continue having progress, And so one of the thoughts that I've had is, but we could do something like, try and get other people involved. Like there's other people talking and that sort of stuff, so that you're not just listening to me the whole time. But being on the Ninja Trader show kind of made me realize, like, oh, okay, like for the live stream format, like the kind of the Twitch, like what people like about Twitch, it really is more about the audience interacting with one person. And once you introduce another person into the mix, or like you're interviewing people, the audience is not as involved and doesn't participate as much. Now maybe it's just you guys come in and you start talking to be completely different. I don't know. And they said that actually most of their viewers watch it after the fact, which I don't think is the case for me. Like I think that about half of the people watch it afterwards. Actually, probably not even half. I'd say maybe like a quarter. So like I'll get like 200 viewers during the live stream. People will come in and watch just like a little section, see if they're picking up what they need, and then move on, right? And then there's a smaller group that comes in and watches it afterwards for like the order flow, for instance, right? Yeah, it's I'd say it's a podcast style live stream. Yeah, it is. It's a podcast that is recorded live. That's what it is, for sure. Okay, what is a macro micro watch list and how do I build and use one? Oh, that's an interesting question. I wonder, because the terminology that you're using, I'm kind of sitting here going, okay, where are they picking that up from? But just based on the description of what you're doing and everything, because that is a common sort of a thing, what would you do? Okay, well, so if you're trading futures, the CME has kind of already done the work for you, because if you go to the CME website, they have things split out into different categories, right? There's the interest rate section, there's the equity index section, there's the metals section, there's the agriculture section, there's the energy section, et cetera, right? And so you can pretty much just go into every one of those categories and pick up the one or two most liquid, highest volume contracts in there and just follow those, right? This is from the Norton method. Okay, yes, but what he's saying is this. So let me share a little bit. I know quite, I've read his old course. I know quite a bit, and we interviewed him on here as well. Okay, so I know quite a bit about the way that the Norton method works, and I get why he doesn't say this, because that's part of how he promotes, that's part of how he creates the mystery for you to want to buy his course and go into things. But for me teaching you, I think it's important for you to understand this, to kind of put it all in context, okay? And the context is this: the way that he's determining, like, what should this instrument be worth, like what is true value in this instrument, is by looking at the correlated instruments, okay? So if I'm trading the 10-year treasury, I want to also look at the 30-year treasury and the 5-year treasury. The closer they are to my instrument, the better. The closer they are to, that's what makes treasuries so great, is I can really see, because if the 10-year ticked up like 5 ticks and the other two didn't move at all, I would be like, WTF. That would be so bizarre. Never seen anything like that happen before, right? They all move together, okay? And so much so that I can look at it, that the 10-year being even one tick off is like possibly an opportunity for me, right? Okay. But then there's also slightly less close, but are still useful, like the dollar or the Japanese yen, because the Japanese yen is like one of the largest buyers of treasuries. So what happens in Japan is has a strong impact on the demand for treasuries. And competing assets like equities, right? Because if equities are going down, that tends to be a positive for treasuries, because they're competing assets, right? So when you're building a watch list, basically what you're doing is you're creating this kind of like matrix that allows you to see what is going on in all of the different sections of the market. So I would go to the CME and find, a future in every one of those sections, and then put them on your watch list. And when you come over here on my NinjaTrader, I have a market analyzer here, right? So what do I have on mine? Natural gas, corn, wheat, soybeans, the Russell Index, NASDAQ, S&P 500, Dow, the Swiss currency. Is that what success? It's a Swissy, or I forget what they call it. Canadian dollar, the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 30-year treasury, Japanese yen, euro, British pound, gold, copper, silver. And those are the main things that I watch. Then I also I'm a little bit interested in stocks too, but I don't watch those as closely. I'll kind of just look at them once a day. So then I come over here to Koifin, and Koifin allows me to make watch lists, and I just kind of put them together in categories. So like this category is meme stocks. That kind of tells me something about when the meme stocks are going up. What does that mean? Okay, Donald Trump media, whatever, today is down 10%. I think that's probably in part because I guess Donald Trump got a big payout because they met certain performance metrics. Okay, Magnificent 7. I have, and then some of these are niche areas that I'm interested in: rare earths, boomer retirement, New nuclear stocks, marijuana. You know, I put that one in there because somebody was interested, but when I did all of the research on it, I was like, no, I don't want to be in the marijuana space. Consumer stocks, tech stocks, materials, defense, energy, and these are the ones that I've kind of identified as like possibly best in class, or at least give me some information about what's going on in that market. So I build that list. And the whole thing is like what I'm trying to determine, because it's all orders. It's all orders. So what I want to know is, where is the money coming from and going to? Because what tends to happen is they will take money out of one section and they'll go and they'll put it somewhere else, right? If somebody sells a bunch of stock, what happens? It doesn't just disappear, right? They probably turn around and they buy something else with that stock, potentially. So I want to know where the money's coming from and going to, and that's why you want a big watch list like that. Can you get a copy of the Koifin one? I don't know how I would do that. And the futures one should be pretty easy for you to copy, because that's basically just all of the major futures instruments on the CME. I'm just hearing on my news squawk that Hamas has agreed to further talks. So I guess the Rafah thing is still on hold. But we are now finally getting. So this is where it's like, you know, if I was short, well, I would be like, I kind of overstayed my welcome, but you know, it hasn't pulled back that much. So I would be okay with taking it off there. Of course, at this point, we'd also have to be asking, is there going to be a second leg? I think that's very possible in this situation, but impossible for me to predict because I'm not entirely sure what's causing this move. I think that it is a yield curve trade. The yield curve definitely moved. I'm a little bit confused as to why they would execute it this way, but okay. My nose, it is really itchy all of a sudden. It must be spring. What the heck? Vegan barbecue? That is not barbecue. Okay. Abomination. That's what that sounds like. My spring allergies have been awful, so I feel you. Oh, you want to check the cost basis? He's always thinking about it here when we get a big move like that. Well, they did go to the tick down to the stop out zone and started reverting there. The cost, well, that's actually interesting. I would have expected, make that big. I would have expected the cost basis to move a little bit. But I guess when you look at the cumulative delta has been pretty mixed, and so it stays up there. But the cost basis is saying they got to come all the way back up to 31. Maybe when they start coming up, it maybe comes down and to meet them a little bit. Very curious indeed. That one's a little bit different from the setups with this that we've done recently, though, isn't it? So I don't know. No, this is one where we don't really have very much statistical support for it, so use at your own risk. So the whole thing is that was, created using logic. I have yet to find a way to look at the data to prove that there's really something about it worth heeding. So it's not empirical. And when we're talking markets, we would really like to have something that's empirical, because markets are so much more complicated than we ever think. The VPOC shifted down, that's true. And we do have kind of some evidence to suggest that when the VPOC moves, that's kind of a significant thing. Not necessarily the event of it moving down being significant so much as just when you see the VPOC continually moving down, that is very indicative of a strong trend. They are kind of slipping back towards 26 again very quickly, and they're trading a lot at 26 as well. So it's already kind of hinting to me that, like, okay, for them to start another leg of the meta order now would be, it seems awfully desperate. It seems awfully desperate to me. Like, this flow has been kind of not so dramatic. So for them to be pushing down like that and all of a sudden be dramatic would be a big change in my mind. But it also, the reason it's worth pointing that out is because there's probably a pretty good chance that it's kind of doing another head fake and that it will kind of revert back towards 27, 28 again. S&P 500 is not doing so hot these first two bars, are they? First two 5-minute bars. Hey, Tariq. Lately I asked myself, how is it possible to scale a fund with order book strats when you are forced to open bigger positions and therefore you would have too big of an influence on the order book? Do you have any ideas how such funds operate? That's a very good question. So that is a problem. So the first issue is being able to measure your impact, to actually know, how much do my orders affect the market. And, we have a lot of kind of, what do we say, models and so forth to kind of help us measure our impact. Like, for instance, that it follows the square root law and all of that sort of a thing, right? So you can kind of come in here and be like, okay, if I trade X contracts, that's going to make it move up yay much, and ergo it's not worth the trade. Like, there is like an optimal number of contracts that you can trade and calculate to say, like, this is the optimal number, but then I'm going to trade a fraction of that to avoid the market from catching on. Okay. So the first big thing is knowing how to size your trades. At that point, though, then it's like, okay, like, you've sized the strategy up as big as it can go. That's like an upper limit on that strategy. So for you to make more money, you're going to have to find other strategies, right? You're going to have a variety of setups and strategies and so forth that you can take advantage of. So scaling is a very difficult thing. Like, I think one of the problems is that there are some retail traders that have maybe discovered something, discovered a market behavior that's significant in some way. And then the problem is that they size up too much, or they blab and they tell it to everybody else, and then it disappears. Cami Capital from New Zealand. Always good seeing a trading stream with bombs rather than chart patterns. Thank you. I mean, sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm just speaking into the void, but I don't know. I haven't felt like that this week. You guys we've had a pretty good stream this week. You've all been there and been feeling pretty good about things this week. I'm a little tired because the freaking child screams about going to bed for like 2 hours. And I've been working out harder. So that's a little bit of a drain on me too. But the stream has been going really well. Like the thing is that when you know, there was some things that I always kind of knew. There's things that I always kind of knew. And it took me a long time to understand them. And then once I did, you know, that was when I really made that left turn into, oh, you know what? Like some of these things that I've been doing really are a waste of time. And when I first started doing that, I encountered a lot of pushback and resistance. And especially when you look at like what you see most retail traders discuss in other communities, especially on Reddit and everything, you know, some people will fight the truth really, really hard for some reason. It's just like, it's just so different from what they know. They just refuse to accept it. But this year, I'm noticing a shift. I'm noticing more and more people start to go, yeah, you're right. So I think we are having an effect. I think that we are teaching people and those people are going and teaching others, and we're starting to dismantle some of the misinformation that's amongst retail traders. So I feel so positive about that, because for a couple of years there, it was just like a huge weight that like everybody seems to reject what you're saying, you know? Seth, can you recommend the Norton method? Well, I haven't taken his new course, so I can't really say anything about his new paid course. I think that with any education, that the reward proposition is a little bit, you know, you can't guarantee people results. One of the things I'm seeing in the public discourse these days is like, it is college a scam, right? And I think it was I can't remember, but some people on the right are saying that like, well, if the majority of the people do not experience the claimed benefits, then it's a scam. And it's like that's kind of a little bit too fuzzy of a definition of a scam for schools, right? Because so much of your success and everything is going to come down to you. And like the real question is like, did they educate you? Did you learn the things that you were supposed to learn? Right? Is really like, how effective are they at actually teaching the thing? And then, you know, how effective the thing that you've learned is at making money for you is largely up to you. Okay, so trying to like value education is, I can't do broad strokes like that, right? So what I can say is that Gary Norton is teaching real information. It's a very difficult way to trade. It's kind of like a dying trade, but it is something that we want people to know. It is expensive, and so it's, you know, you're going to have to consider the resources available to you and how badly you want to know about that style of scalping and everything for you to determine if it's appropriate for you, right? So this is one of those things where I really try to be careful about what I say, because I really like Gary, and I do think that he has a good course there, but it is not appropriate for everybody, and I don't want anybody to go in there and be, you know, spend $10,000 or however much it is that they don't really have, right? So you have to factor those things in, you know. Wow. Cami, oh, you know what? You've been here. You were here a while ago. That's right. I forgot. But let's see here. You had 600 viewers daily, and then you dropped it to ICT, and you only got 150. That is painful, dude. 100 of that, 600 viewers daily. That's pretty big, though. That's pretty big. Depends on a few things for making school worth it. Getting into a sector in high demand, using the information you learn to pursue starting a business. Don't get a CS degree and do Starbucks. Yeah, well, there are some degrees out there that people get into, and so again, they're saying like it's a scam, and I'm like, well, okay, but like, what does a school actually tell you when they're, promoting a gender study degree? I don't know if they're saying, oh, you're going to get rich off of this, So this is another thing that I don't think that the right understands. And when I say that the right doesn't understand, it's not endemic to being right wing as much as it is that the right has become the working class thing. And so it's a thing that I don't think that working class people understand. And that is that college is luxury knowledge to some extent, right? These are things that you learn that you don't make money off of them. You don't have to know them, but they're nice to know. And because you have rich parents and connections and a secure future, you can afford to waste your time on an education in things that aren't going to have direct business impacts, right? And you want to learn about that thing, and you want to, I mean, it does, or it should rather, develop, certain problem solving skills and thinking skills and things like that can be useful to being upper class, right? So it's luxury knowledge. It is. And when you go to college, I think that you do get the luxury knowledge. And so in that respect, you're getting what you're paid for, right? Trading education is a little bit different, because a lot of trading education out there is just teaching complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. I don't know, though. There's this shift now to like, you shouldn't go to school. I don't know. I feel very uncomfortable with the way things are going, with my generation turning into kind of an inflection point, you can find me on LinkedIn. Speculator Seth on LinkedIn. And then from there, you probably just find my personal profile. I haven't been on there as much lately. Okay, so here's my problem with LinkedIn. I get some of my best information from LinkedIn. The part of the problem in retail trading is that the professionals aren't really allowed to talk to the public. And like, you talk about trading stuff on Facebook or Twitter, like, you can get fired, essentially. Okay, but LinkedIn is a little bit different, right? There's professional development, and then there's people that are like doing studies and scholarly stuff and things at universities and everything. And so once you get hooked into the LinkedIn network, you get all sorts of information. Now, the problem with the information that you get on LinkedIn is that a lot of it is like advanced graduate level math, and there's so many things to look into, and I could probably every day find a study on LinkedIn that I could spend the rest of the day studying and trying to understand. I think that if I didn't have a day job and like YouTube was my day job, that I would probably spend a lot of time on those sorts of things. And so kind of the issue is that my job is a lot more demanding this year than it was in years past. The company that I worked for before was a little bit bigger, and you know, a lot more of their revenue kind of came from government sources, and you know, it was a pretty mature system, and so things were pretty chill. Whereas the job that I do now, there's a lot going on, and there's always some sort of problem or issue that we're racing against time to try and do. And so I'm just like way more locked into my job, and so I don't really have the time to really study those things on LinkedIn as much as I would like. Yep, I already have so many studies saved that I can't look into because of school. The struggle is real, man. This is the thing with finance. I don't think that most people really know what this is like. That the amount of knowledge that's available out there just about the subject of finance is just so immense. No one person can have all of it. There are subjects out there where you can like know almost everything there is about it, you know, by the time you've become a master. But there's no such thing as a master in finance, I think, you know. Let's see here. I completely flunked high school, never went to uni college. I went to my own accord, taught myself coding, statistics, high level math at the uni, and pursued trading, and it's worked out great. That's great. Sitting. Yeah, so the thing that I was kind of getting at before, though, was that, like, because of the way that devices work, I mean, not as many people are actually using desktop computers. They're just using phones. And so apparently the kids just do not have computer literacy today anymore at all. Like, if you tell them, create a folder on your desktop, they have no clue what that is. What is a folder? What are files? What do you mean the file name extension and all? Like, they don't understand even basic things about computers. And so basically, like, millennials are peak tech literacy. Apparently millennials are peak tech literacy. Okay. Then on the other side, you got these boomers that have enjoyed positions of power within companies for a very, very long time and are only now starting to retire. And a lot of them are like retiring and going like, oh, you know what? I hate being retired. I need to continue working. Which doesn't surprise me at all. Like, listen, boomers are probably like the first generation where there was really this expectation that like you would just straight up retire. And now they're saying that like, no, probably most people prefer to work in some capacity or another well into their 70s. So they might take on a different sort of role at a company. But some of those positions are not coming down to the millennials. And there's Gen X too. You know, a lot of it is Gen X right now. But they're going to be aging out really quickly too. So you're kind of going to get this spot where all of the sudden the millennials have to take on this responsibility all at once. That this responsibility for society is just going to be heaved onto millennials all at once, and we're not going to have any experience because, you know, we didn't get to move into those spots at the appropriate time in our careers because those spots are already taken by boomers. Right. Meanwhile, then go back to the other side again. Gen Alpha, like, apparently smartphones are really damaging for your brain development. Like, IQ of Gen Alpha is like lower. And so you get this situation where like millennials and Gen Z are like peak tech literacy and knowledge and smarts, and like the generations before and after are just not as much. And I find that really disconcerting. That's like a lot of responsibility, because there's all sorts of things about, okay, when I'm gone, who's going to keep the lights on? Are these kids actually going to be able to continue keeping systems like this going? There's going to be less of them. They don't know as much about the tech. How are they going to keep these things going? They say AI is going to take over everything. Okay, but who's going to keep the AIs going? You even going to have enough people to develop and keep the AIs going? Because I kind of question that you will. That's why when it's like people are like, oh, computer science is so oversaturated, I'm not so sure about that. That might be the case like right now, but I'm going to bet you that like 5 to 10 years from now, it's going to flip back the other way, and it's going to be like we are so desperate for computer science people, especially experienced ones, that they just will do anything for you. Especially if you have like any kind of management experience too, by the way. And then, yeah, more people need to go into the trades. Well, maybe, but you need a lot of educated people too. I don't think the problem is that there's too many educated people in society. I think the problem is that we educated on the wrong things, right? We needed more people to be engineers and less to be humanities and business majors and marketing. The amount of money that goes into marketing sometimes is unreal. Okay, by the way, this is actually totally playing out the way I suspected. But should I have taken a trade on that one? I don't know. I just don't feel good. I think I should stick to not trading it today. But remember I said, let's come back to the chart. We had this move down, and I wasn't really seeing the cumulative delta shift super strong relative to how quickly we fell down. But what we did see was that spread, the yield curve really move and steepen quite aggressively. And so I asked, okay, when we move back the other way, are you going to see the volume more strongly in the 5-year? Right? Because on the downside, it was really mostly the 30. And you did. I wasn't sure if it was like, the yield curve was going to mean reverting, but it looks to me like, especially on the knob spread, that it's still, to a degree, steepening. So I think it really was. You come in and you sell the 30, and then you turn around and you buy the 5. And so we should have taken a trade around the 5. I guess part of it was that I was like, okay, this looks like maybe it's chilling out. And then they did this sort of a thing, and I'm like, they're going to play the games. I don't want to be in this area. That's going to be really stressful. But the order the other way did come. So they scared me away from it, but it did come. So that makes me, I feel like I still have a pretty good handle on this market, even when I'm kind of questioning it a little bit. Problem over here in Canada is that so many people are going after computer science degrees, but we don't really have a large enough sector to support all these people chasing after one opening. Yeah. Oh, so here's the issue that I have right now. Oh, by the way, we're gonna have news here in a few minutes, aren't we? Or a few seconds. factory orders in core durable goods, there's a gentle pull for it. So this is a medium impact event, but they are pulling at the minute for it. So the issue that I see with the tech industry narrative right now is that, like, where's the numbers to show this stuff, you know? Okay, factory orders came in line 1.6. Core durable goods came in line at spot 2. So no movement on that at all. I think that the market is just going to kind of move on. That ended up being a non-event. Okay, so like, I'm, you know, I changed jobs 6 months ago, like at the end of July. Been doing pretty good with it. The company that I'm with is growing really strongly, and we're having a hard time keeping up, frankly. You know, like, so I can't see all this stuff. But when I go on Reddit, all I hear is computer science is oversaturated. Like, all of the new graduates are having a hard time finding jobs. There's a lot of people that are worried that, like, they went to school and they won't be able to get into the industry, and because they didn't get into the industry, like, literally right out of school, that they'll never be able to get into the industry and it'll just all be a waste. Like, there's a lot of that going around. Or like when I get on TikTok, oh my gosh, like I was watching TikTok yesterday. It used to be that I would get really frustrated by how much of the content on TikTok was like thirst traps and kind of vapid content like that, you know? And now I kind of feel the opposite. Now I'm like, all TikTok shows me is negative things. I feel that TikTok is just Chinese propaganda to try and make Americans feel as dissatisfied with capitalism as possible. Because that's all it shows me. Oh, the economy's terrible. We're actually in a Great Depression. All of these things that are like, well, I don't see that in my life. I don't see that in any of the people that I talk to. And I don't see that in any of the numbers. Like, you know, employment is really good right now, for instance. Employment is really, really good right now. So a lot of these things aren't showing in the numbers at all. Well, that doesn't mean that the tech industry in particular is going through a tough time. It just means that I don't have the data for it. So where is the data so that we can prove like whether these things are happening or not? Like how many openings are there compared to the number of people that are out there looking in the tech space right now, really? Because I don't have any data source that splits it out like that for me to really confirm that like computer science is quote unquote oversaturated, or that in certain areas, like, so, you know, to the thing that's prompted this, that there's not enough tech openings in Canada for the number of people that are going for them. I honestly, I find that hard to believe, because like almost every medium-sized business can benefit from having software developers. You don't have to join a, you know, FANG company to be in tech. And probably part of the problem was that FANG became too big of a portion of the industry. And, you know, now we need to have a chance for like everybody else to catch up. What did he say about the Norton method? He said it depends on you as to whether, you know, your income and your desire to learn that style of trading, which is very difficult, as to whether or not it's good. But he is teaching you like real information that is difficult to come by. But it's niche. I guess the way I should really say it is it's a niche thing. It's a niche thing. Also, good morning from Italy. Thank you. The Allo Cristofaro. Also weird how Chinese TikTok supposedly shows Chinese top propaganda and how great China is. Weird. Same app, right? Yeah. No, it's not. It's actually a completely different app. The Chinese version is like a completely different app. So in TikTok, they have a different feed that's called the STEM feed, because basically people were like, there's not, enough. It doesn't show me the educational content, even though there's some really good educational content creators on TikTok. So they made a feed that's just the STEM feed. And as far as I can tell, the Chinese feed is a lot more like the STEM feed. So, this just goes back to I really think that artificial intelligence is being abused right now. We're using it in ways that it isn't actually necessarily good at and is not serving us very well. Have you noticed that, for instance, the YouTube algorithm sucks now? Like, I don't know what they changed, but I see so much less interesting content on YouTube. It used to be I'd come in every day and, go down through the front page feed, and I would load 4 or 5 different videos, and that would give me something to have going on in the background all day while I was doing my work. And now I go on there and I'm like, everything is just clickbait trash. Like, it will show me stuff about producing, but it's like, these are all videos I've seen before. Like, it will recommend videos that I've already watched. It's just become so dumb. It's easier to tell what really stupid stuff is viral at the moment. Anyways, I think that the YouTube algorithm has collapsed in on itself. That we've been optimizing towards who has the most clickbaity thumbnail and the most Mr. Beast over exaggerated everything, whatever, that now the algorithm is come full circle and everybody's sick of it. And the algo doesn't know what to do, because it's just complete trash that I get on my feed now. It is in subjects that I'm interested in, but the videos just aren't very good. And heaven forbid it shows me stuff about markets, because then I get real trash. Just scammers and crap. Ugh. I don't understand who could legitimately use Facebook at this point. Social media algorithms went to absolute crap across the board. Totally. Most of the people that I would see post regularly on Facebook aren't posting anymore. Even amongst the people that are still posting, I don't feel that Facebook does a good job of showing me. I have 1,000 or 2,000 friends on Facebook or something like that. And I don't see even 1% of them. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And I don't know. So it's the Facebook thing is kind of frustrating because I don't know. YouTube still has its utility. I don't think that the utility of Facebook is gone. Or sorry, the utility of YouTube is gone. It's just the algorithm doesn't show you good stuff. But there's still good content on YouTube. It's just the algorithm's just not good at showing it to you. On Facebook, Facebook really ingrained itself into the structure of society in ways. It served some important functions. And so now it's no competing service can really replace Facebook for those functions, but Facebook kind of sucks for them, and so it's just kind of crap. Good grief, the Facebook groups are awful. They made so many mistakes with Facebook groups, but it's kind of hard to have general niche interest groups now outside of Facebook and Reddit. They're the whole game now. The treasuries are coming back hard, and the equities are falling along with it. This is a very curious action today. The YouTube algo is like, or sorry, Facebook, if you're male, thirst traps, cartoons, comic books, video games, default, no matter what your interests are, and the sponsored content is absolutely drowning out your friends' posts. Yeah, it is. It is. Like, Facebook pre-2008 was great. And the decline of the service, I think, is almost entirely to do with decisions that Facebook made. The decision to limit the amount of your feed that you can see, the decision to limit your reach, the decisions to change how events worked, the ways that Facebook groups work, just being absolutely terrible at detecting and killing off bots. Absolutely ridiculous. And there is an answer, but I don't think that enough people are in on the answer for it to really work. The answer is stop worrying about going viral and reaching the largest audience all the time and just find your little group. You're way better. You're much better off finding a small group of people that's like, 200 people. Your brain can't handle more relationships than that. So build a community of a tight-knit community of 200 people. And online is great for that sort of a thing. But everybody's so worried about going viral that it doesn't really happen. Right? Because that's what we've done. And I've gone through periods, I wish I was viral. I wish that we had more people watching the stream every day, but actually we're like the perfect size. It's about 20, 30 people at a time in a community that every day is about 200 to 300 people. It's perfect. It's perfect. And then, the one-off YouTube videos is kind of like the community showing off what we got to everybody else. And that's the sort of thing that can be consumed by a wider audience. But I still go and use Facebook probably just about every day, going and like cruising like the local CrossFit group to see if there's any equipment I want to buy or things like that. So I'm frustrated by it. I feel like that there should be a competitor that has come up and displaced all of these services, and I don't know if it's coming. I don't know if you can get the capital for that anymore. If you would be competitive, you would really need to have a completely different approach, something really truly unique to get through the noise these days. Yeah. Interesting how over at UCLA they're unmasking protesters for cameras as they arrest them. The way that whole thing is kind of played out is kind of curious. I think one of the things that I find interesting about it is, why did UCLA end up being the one that was the first one where they're like, okay, we're not going to put up with this anymore, and tore it down? I guess it was because of all of the clashes that they had yesterday. Actually, you know what this is? Oh man, wait, what's your question here? Paolo is, in this period, ZB is less liquid, right? Or am I just from my POV? I would say that 1,000 contracts per price is about average for ZB. They do, the treasuries overall are being a little bit more slippery than usual, though. So a lot of that liquidity is pulling. Florida is the real one for how, well, yeah, they handled it in a way that it never even became a thing, right? No, so my understanding about what happened at UCLA was that there was one guy that was trapped inside of the encampment and wanted to leave, and the protesters stopped him from leaving. There's a video on it where he's trying to run and the protesters all chase so that he can't escape and leave the community. And then there was another one of a girl who was beaten and had to go to the hospital. And so my understanding of what happened was that the Jews and their friends in that area got sick and decided to come and start a counter protest. And then there was clashes because of the counter protest. So this is interesting development for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it kind of confirms and stresses this thing that these protests really are quite small. I think a lot of people are kind of playing this narrative that's like, oh, these protests are becoming such a big thing, and how is this happening? And, you know, this means that the youth are changing, in that America's future is going in a no, it doesn't, because it's a very, very small minority of people that actually agree with the protesters. That they're the silent majority thing is like for real here in this instance. Okay, it really is like a small group of crazy activists that are being given way too much attention. Most of these, a lot of these people aren't even students. They are just activists. It's the same activists that are being activists for every one of these sorts of riot things that we see every few years. It's the same group of people, and it's a relatively small group of people that's being given way too much attention. Okay, so that's the first thing. But then the second thing that's interesting about it, well, and the reason why I say that is because, like, the opposing group was able to recruit enough people for like an opposing protest just spontaneously within one afternoon, right? But then the other interesting thing about it is that, like, the police weren't doing anything, and so people decided that they were going to come in and do something. When you create a vacuum like that, people will do what they think is in their best interest and what to protect themselves. And that's what they did. And it was only at that point when they realized, oh, actually, we do need to shut this down. And then UCLA came in and shut it down. Paid well, yes. I don't think that most of the people that are protesting are being paid, but there is money driving it. The people that, like, organize the protests and everything, they get money from it, yes. They're not making like $100,000 a year from it, but they get financial support that allows them to organize the protests, yes. So in Utah, I mean, this is the way that it works in Utah, is that there's these radical organizing people, and, you know, there's probably like 20 of these people that are kind of like into organizing stuff, right? And they've got their network, and so when they call for a protest or whatever, it's the same freaking people. Like, I remember when I worked for Goldman, and they were doing the Occupy Wall Street thing, and there was people protesting in front of our office or whatever, and so everybody went over and took a picture of it and whatnot. I went and took a count. There was maybe like 200, 300 people. And then when the Black Lives Matter riots were happening in 2020, same people. Go and look at the crowds on television. I recognize that guy. I reckon it's the same people. Telling you. And I don't think that all of those people get paid $300 a day, but there are some people that do get paid, yes. And we know for a fact, verified fact, that there is a lot of money helping. That's like where all of the tents and stuff came from. It was kind of funny to watch that, you know, because, you know, people immediately pointed out, how come all of the tents are exactly the same? And people online were like, well, you know, it's just an Amazon tent. There's nothing, it's not unused gaslighting. That's freaking gaslighting is what that is. Because then all of these media outlets went and did the investigation and found out that, yes, all of these protests are being organized by groups that are funded by George Soros and other billionaires. And the people that are organizing the protests make money from it, yes. Or get paid to some extent. Professionally printed signs and stuff. Well, yes, and then when you get into like that, all of these protests are so. A lot of the protests have been saying things like, you know, from the river to the sea, but even some more extreme things, right? Like there was this one. There have been signs just outright pushing for genocide. Things like that, right? So then you think about this, like, is that what George Soros thinks? That Israel should be genocided? I mean, maybe. That seems unlikely, though. Which makes me think that the money that's behind it is really more about destabilizing things than anything else, you know? Lots of people from a particular persuasion you wouldn't think would fund it, yeah. But I have a, you know, the only conclusion that I can come to right now is that they're funding it because it's destabilizing. Anything that gets more refugees here? Maybe. I tell you what, man, the immigration and refugee issue is really backfiring on Democrats right now. It really makes me wonder because, you know, the whole conspiracy theory about it, I guess, is that the left only wants as many immigrants to come in as possible because they think that they will vote for them in the future. But at least in this election, it really seems to be backfiring. Like, they're losing so much of their base from this sort of stuff. And it's hurting the Democrat Party, like, really hard. And in spite of that, they still kind of want to push it. That makes me think that they really do genuinely believe in the open borders concept. They think that freedom means that I should have the freedom to move from country to country whenever I want. And they're not thinking about the consequences of that world. The censuses, or maybe, but I'm starting to think that they do, that it's not just an electoral play, that they do genuinely believe it. If they do, they genuinely believe it, that's more scary to me, frankly. Thinking about trading oil just goes short everything every morning. It has been to the downside a lot during our session lately, hasn't it? Yes. By the way, the treasuries, I'm really not liking the way that it's starting to behave now. Just because, like, you come in and you get a strong move like this little thing right here, right? And then, like, it almost immediately reverses. That's kind of like predatory behavior. I'm trying to get my U.S. citizenship Chip, perhaps I should just go through the border and save time. They'll give me more support than people do. Yeah. Well, yeah, this again, yeah, Obsidian, man. You shouldn't have said that, because this is the thing about the immigration issue that pisses me off more than anything, is that they're literally creating like a class of slaves. You bring people in that are not legal, and when they come in, like, their ability to do things are so limited that they basically all they can do is manual labor and really low level manufacturing jobs. It's just totally slave labor. And then they run around and act all righteous like they're doing such a great thing. Yeah, you could come in to the United States. You would be here in the United States, and you could probably get a lot of financial assistance and everything, but you would also be a slave. Like, basically the only work you'd be able to find would be like manual labor and stuff. It's fucked up. White progressives quantifiably have outgroup preferences. They do genuinely think their comfy first world with third world conflicts will be I mean, at the end of the day, though, that really is it, isn't it? They don't like the values that have created the West. They don't like the idea that you should work hard. That's the biggest one. The biggest one is that they don't believe in hard work. You go and listen to left. If you find somebody, they're like a content creator, and maybe they're about like a career coach or something like that. Okay, but they're a left-leaning one. Okay, they're not telling you to work hard. But they're going to be telling you how working hard isn't worth it and it won't actually pay out for you and everything. As I kind of feel like they always kind of missed the point of that kind of value, because the value is not if you work hard you will be rewarded. That's a misnomer. Is that the appropriate usage of that word? It doesn't work that way. What you get paid is completely down to supply and demand. You're supposed to work hard just in general, no matter what, because it's good for you. That's the American value there, is that hard work is good for you. They don't believe that. And all of those kind of values that I think led to the West being so successful, they hate them and they want to replace them. Yeah, that's what it really comes down to. But at the same time, I do think that they really, like George Soros in particular, really just believes in the open borders thing. And they won't. I see, and that's the difference between you and me. Is that my take is that you go down that path, you're just going to be not effective, and you won't be competitive, and they'll lose in the end. Still, it'll be really annoying, and it will harm a lot of people's lives. But in the end, they're not going to be successful, is what I think. I guess that's why I watch on with extreme curiosity these protests that are going on campus and everything, because what do I see? I see losers. I see losers. It's like, look, kids have this tendency to, want to be and get involved in a radical cause, and a cause that is often, quite frankly, contrary to the society around them, right? Like, kids have this tendency to do that because that's like what will encourage you to go out and to a different tribe and find somebody with different genes so that you don't inbreed, essentially. Right? So kids have this tendency. They're going to do that. You're going to make stupid decisions when you're in college. And the whole thing is just don't do anything that's so stupid that you screw up the rest of your life. Because there were people that did that in the 60s. They got into the whole protest thing. Most people, they got over it, and then they ended up becoming, Wall Street titans and all of this sort of stuff. And it's kind of like, how did these people come out of the hippie movement? Okay, but then there was a bunch of other ones that they got too deep and they just completely screwed their lives up. And I'm seeing a lot of these protesters, they're just completely screwing their lives up, because I guarantee you most of them 10, 20 years from now are going to look back on that and be like, oh, that was dumb. Like, everything that we did worked against ourselves, because that's what's happening. Nobody likes them. Quite frankly, Americans are cheering to see these protests shut down and trashed and whatnot. Like, the majority of Americans just hate it, I think. There's polling that suggests that. That's what I'm seeing from, like, everybody's comments and how they react to it and everything. Lonely people without identities. That's how you see secular white kids throwing on keffiyeh and joining Islamic prayer groups so quickly. College kids who poop on religion doing salah 5 times a day suddenly. Sure. That, like, they didn't have a strong enough culture, and so they're prone to adopting a culture even if it completely contradicts their own values. Imagine screwing your life up for something actually stupid and fueled with lies. Yeah. Imagine screwing your life up to support Hamas. It's really quite astounding. Bending like reeds in the wind. Yeah, I mean, I know that I got on this soapbox yesterday, but I'll get on it again. College kids are extremely easy to manipulate. Everybody's like, oh, these are the smartest people in our society. These are like Ivy League kids and stuff like that. Okay, just because you go to school to learn how to be an independent thinker does not mean that you are already an independent thinker. Okay, and you're talking about people that have only had this kind of capacity to think at these levels for a few years. It takes a while to get good at it. And I don't really feel like that you really kind of get over all of those foibles and really have a system that you'll feel confident in, let alone good at, until your late 30s. So to come in and say these people that haven't lived in society at all, essentially, that they're going to come in, like, look, you don't just walk in the door and then change everything, right? You come in, you sit back, you see what's going on, and then you slowly get more involved as you have more experience with the system. I'd say there's a fair degree of sneaky guys in there using their participation as a mating strategy. Well, you know what? In that group of kids, there's always going to be, I don't know if, it seems like a really ineffective mating strategy to me, but I don't know. I tell you what, how do you, the whole thing is there's so many opportunities out there, and the hard question is, how do you filter so that you take the right opportunities? So when that always will come to my mind when we're talking about, men and women and mating strategies and that sort of a thing. It's like I dated probably like 200 women during my single period after I got divorced. And then the one that I married kind of ended up being the one that stuck around and seemed to be working. So that's kind of how I decided it. Is that actually the most effective way of going about it? Because there are some downsides. Like, we have really rough kids And I do not feel that we are meeting that challenge very well. Like I'm just so done most days. My wife seems like she's like catatonic most of the time because she's just so exhausted from dealing with the kids, you know? So like that's what happened. I have absolutely no way to know like what are the other options around you. Like was that, you know, how do you filter? I know this conversation is crazy. It is crazy. But the question is how do you filter? I would think that like filtering for like radicals is probably like a bad mating strategy, but I'm not 100% sure what actually is a good mating strategy, which is to say like what will lead you to the highest quality mates, right? I have a strategy that will lead you to getting married, but I don't know how good a quality of it is. I kind of feel that for most people that you know, after you've been married for a while, you kind of will start to feel like it's mediocre. Because that is probably the impression I'm giving you. It's like, oh, Seth thinks that his marriage is mediocre. But I think that most people are mediocre, and that it's kind of like what you do that will make it great, right? And eventually most people will figure that out. I think that we've figured that out. We're not good at it yet. Not good at it. Or I'm not good at it. As long as she's an 8 or a 10, I would know. Valentino, listen. This is one thing that I have learned is don't put your dick in crazy. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Okay, wait, let me go back here. That's like this episode of American Dad where Stan renounced his citizenship and stayed in Iraq. His hippie college student daughter fell in love with a guy who lied about being in ISIS. Oh my gosh, what? Because he knew she'd love it and she was really an ice cream salesman. Oh. Good grief. Oh yeah, I'm a super deep emotional feminist man that goes to feminism protests to get a mate. Can I so I have a thought about that too. Okay. Something that I've been thinking about lately. I think that there are many things about the feminist movement in the United States today that are very negative. I think this whole thing where it seems like men and women have turned against each other is a very, very negative thing. The reality, as I see it, is that men and women are more successful when they're together. Having there's a lot of evidence to suggest that men start making more money after they get in a relationship or they get married. And it's not just like, you know, successful people, there's like some correlation. Like they've done all of these sorts of things to kind of factor that in, and they still find that being married makes men more successful. Women prefer to be home. It is. I'm just don't shoot the messenger. Like, look, that's the statistics. Most women would prefer to be home with the kids. They would. That's just like what women enjoy, whether it's right or wrong or whatever the deal is, right? But there is a problem. There is a real problem, and that is that if you are a woman and you choose to do that, you are completely dependent on the man. So if he leaves you, you have nothing. You start from square one. That's a real problem. That's the side of it that I think men ignore, is that you have to come in and entrust your entire future to one person in a world where like 50% of the time it doesn't work out. That's kind of dumb. We got to solve that problem. You're going to have to solve that problem to be able to sort out all of the other issues that we're having with like gender roles and so forth in our society. You know? And so like these guys that run around and they pretend to be feminists and everything, I don't think that they get it. I think that they're playing to this caricature of what feminism is, and like, you know, you need to be this boss baby. But I think the reality is for most women that they don't care about that shit. It's just that they don't want to get caught in the situation that they saw a lot of their mothers and people in the boomer generation, you know? Well, you align yourself with God first and foremost. Pursue a traditional Christian woman might take. Well, I mean, I agree with that, but doesn't solve the larger societal issues, unfortunately. Like, for an individual person, if you know that you're a good person, right, and you're a God-fearing person, you can pursue that and you're going to be happy for sure, right? That's what I did. I'm pretty happy with it. I would say I'm pretty happy with my marriage. I'm pretty unhappy with how my kids keep me up at night. That's the only thing that I'm really super upset about right now, and I just can't get over it because I'm so sleepy. Oh my gosh. And it's not my wife's fault either. Don't interpret any of this as like it's, well, there are some things that she does that you know, I think kind of working, but it's primarily these kids are just, it's just my situations. It's just my lot in life, man. Ugh. Okay. But those are Seth's problems. We're talking about society's problems. And the society problem, it doesn't go away that when women get divorced, they have nothing. It goes away. I don't know if it's going to, Obsidian. Because it's Azure still doesn't speak. He's 4.5 now. It seems to me that he understands language. He understands, for the most part, everything that I'm saying to him. He tries to communicate, but that he just can't make the words. And he has gotten to this point where he feels like he's so bad at it that he like doesn't try. Because he will drag you over. He will tell you stuff, but he just can't use words for some reason. So there's, at this point, guys, stop deleting comments. I hate it when you do that. At this point, I'd say there's a very high probability that Asher is dependent on us for his entire life. So I don't know if it ever goes away. The amount of attention that he deserves may never go away. I know. I guess Asher on his own isn't that bad. It's the 2-year-old is the real terror right now. And hopefully once he gets to Asher's age, maybe it won't be so bad. Calm down, lol. Yeah, Price, he decided to go and delete. He deleted all of his own comments, right? Oh, I don't know what all of that was about. Oh, you put him in timeout. Oh, okay. I was kind of ignoring his comments. Well, not that he was saying anything that I was like I didn't like or anything like that. I kind of have a tendency to, because he'll put in too many comments, you know. You know what's weird? I feel that in online communities that I've always had this ability to kind of like stand out for the comments. There's something about the way that I will say things sometimes that just really gets to some people. They don't like it or something like that. I don't know what the deal is, right? But I have this ability to just come in and you make like this one post and all of a sudden it's the entire focus of the thread, you know? But I would type a lot, but as I've gotten older, it's you know, I've become more and more selective about, you know, when I say things. Like, I'm only going to say, except for when I'm on the stream, then it's just like a stream of consciousness. Oh, it comes out. Maybe that's what it is because I have that sieve. That's what price action, you need to start a stream. We'll watch it. I'll watch it. Or sorry, not what is his name? What? Stating things in clear, concise statements that both get the message across and are oftentimes easily proven correct, and people hate that. Shocker. Well, the stuff that we're talking about right now, that's kind of, sorry, Captain Price, that I think kind of got Captain Price yapping was, you were kind of talking more conservative politics now, right? So when I get into these controversial issues, I seem to have a knack for saying things in a way that will trigger certain people. He was just going all right. Oh, okay. I was like, the thing was, is like, I read his comments, but I was being ADHD, right? Don't worry, I still care about you, Captain Price. It's just I'm ADHD, right? That's the problem. Oh, okay. Wait, so when you put him in timeout, did it automatically delete his comments? Yeah, you didn't ban him anything. Okay, that's good. But did you delete? Because that's the thing that I hate is when I'm looking at the thing, and like, I see the movement, so I go and I look at it, but it was actually like a comment was removed, and I'm like, oh, wait, what? I hate that. I also hate it when I go into Discord and people are like all deleting their messages after they say them. That's annoying too. But I understand why they do it sometimes. If you put a user in timeout, it apparently deletes all their... Oh, really? Yeah, because I'm like, okay, so can I look at him and see what the, but you know, there's no name to even click on. Oh my gosh, you know what's funny is the other day I was on YouTube and looking at like the settings to see, oh, are there any new settings on YouTube that I missed that might be useful to the channel or anything like that? And it goes into the section of like people that are hidden on this channel or whatever. And like, it's all like the same 2 or 3 influencers that tried spamming the channel multiple times. And that's it. We really never needed to ban people for anything else. Which is definitely not the case for a lot of communities. Same in the Discord. I think we banned like one guy that was like actively contributing. I think we've only ever had to ban one guy in the Discord, and the rest of it is just spam. But I guess what I'm saying, price action, is it's usually not a good idea to like post 4 or 5 things in a row. It's better to try and like be able to time what you say and craft what you say to have the most impact, and that gets people's attention a lot more than a bunch of messages. Throat's still gravelly. I think it's dogs. I think it's because I'm allergic to dogs. Anyways. Oh, okay. Is the tubes breaking highs? Really? Well, I guess that shouldn't surprise us if it really is a spread trade steepener. Which I think makes sense. We should keep track. Maybe we should keep track of that. How would I keep track of that? Do I have over here? We have a best of. Let's make HX swings. Insert Thursday. Long. Steepener. Let's do it the 2s and 10s, or should we do it in the 30 and 10? Probably should be the 2 and 10. So that would be, what is the ZT at right now? Which would mean long 101 173 and short ZN 107.30, right? What's next one's on you? Okay, Captain Price says he's safe now. Okay. I was scared. No, wait, did you delete his comment? Okay, he says now it's working. Don't. No. Okay. Here's what I want you to do is write a sentence, like write a full sentence out. Write a full sentence out and then hit the enter key. It's okay. Don't ban him again because we only got 5 minutes left. Okay. And now he's deleting them all. Ah. Oh, I think when Uzi was saying next one's on you, dog, is that because Uzi made money off of something that Octavia said today? Oh, no, it's because you two were loving each other earlier. I gotcha. Okay. Well, today's price action was a little, I'm always really paying attention after a Federal Reserve meeting because it can take them a while to figure it out, and some of the most important flows happen the day after, not the day of. So I think I definitely saw some of that today, and it does look like it is a Steepener. But I also see like that they're waiting for non-farms tomorrow, so that might be a little bit of some of this stuff that's going on that's making me uneasy. But I don't know how big of a deal non-farms tomorrow will be. It doesn't feel to me like as major or as anticipated as last month's non-farms, but let's just see. Let's just take it one data point at a time. CPI, I'm really going to be paying attention to those, right? CPI is where I'm going to be like, okay, could make or break the market next week. There was more, I think part of me is venting. Part of me is venting because I'm like, okay. What I see is life is kind of like you have to pick all your stats at the beginning and then hope it works out, right? And now you get to a certain part where you're kind of a little bit dissatisfied with some of the decisions. It doesn't mean that you're unhappy with your life, but there's still kind of like, okay, where am I going from here is the real question. And I'm not sure how to go from here with my current situation, And yeah, if I got more sleep, maybe that would make me feel better about it. But and it's also really hard to think about it and it not sound like I'm complaining about my family, because I don't think that that's it. Like, I don't think that of course, I don't think that my family is doing everything that I would like them to do, but the mistakes that they're making and the mistakes that I'm making are common mistakes that everybody makes, So the answer can't be, oh, everybody just needs to do what I tell them to do. I mean, that would help, but that's probably not going to happen. So what are the actions you take in this situation? I haven't figured it out yet. And so I wonder, and then I start to think about things like, okay, so is this part of being 40? Is this part of being ADHD? I don't know. Well, either way, today, after I'm done with work, I'll work out, and then I have to prevent my children from killing each other and hope that they go to sleep on time. Okay, it is 8:55, so it's time for me to get going. I will see you guys tomorrow for non-farms. Don't miss it. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.